Hello, listeners. We have a one of a kind episode of MACC Conversations for you. It's Black History Month, and we welcome a most interesting MACC network leader who not only is an education director, but also a professional comedian. Yes, it's true. Listen in and meet Annex's own Khadijah Cooper as we dive into what it's like for her to be a Black woman in nonprofit leadership during these turbulent times, as well as a comedian. Amazing. You don't want to miss this one. Welcome to MACC Conversations, a workforce podcast from the Metropolitan Alliance of Connected Communities. Interested in checking out more MACC podcast episodes? Listen in on Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. I'm Laurel Hansen, MACC's Program and Member Engagement Director. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by Khadijah Cooper, Director of Education Services at MACC member Annex Teen Clinic, among the other hats she wears, and that's a little teaser, which we'll learn more about later. Khadijah is a leader I've always looked up to, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to chat. We'll talk about Khadijah's experience as a leader during this time of crisis and oppression that we're going through here in Minnesota, and gain meaningful insights from her own words. We're recording this podcast during Black History Month, and MACC recognizes the great Black leaders of our network and sector. So welcome, Khadijah. Thank you so much for joining us on the MACC podcast. I'm so grateful we have this opportunity together. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm excited to engage in this conversation.
Wonderful. I know we have some heavy conversation points to cover today, but I also want to make sure we save time to hear more about some of the potentially more lighthearted things you have going on. But let's jump in. I mentioned it's Black History Month while we were recording this, and our community, of course, our community has been experiencing such significant turbulence. So we need to talk about that. And particularly, I want to open this conversation with asking you, as a Black woman in a leadership role at a nonprofit organization, what does it mean to be in the Twin Cities as oppression is just really actively being forced on our communities? What does that bring up for you?
Yeah, I think, this question has been at the top of, a lot of conversations I've been in right now. And I think what is important to say is like oppression has always happened. I think it is definitely on a different scale. There is different visibility and there is I think like different context, but the context has kind of been a through line throughout history. So, oppression and being a Black woman, I think, unfortunately, really go hand in hand. So, even, in the last few months or in the beginning of 2026, seeing all of the increase of ICE and like this administration and just like attacks so many things that I care about, that the work that I do around sexual health, I think it's also just shining a light on like really how bad it is. Like this is something that I think people of color, other communities that are disproportionately oppressed have known forever, but I think at this scale, I think it's highlighting it in a way that in my generation hasn't been highlighted in like this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um
that's beautiful. I mean, it's
yeah,
beautifully said. Thank you.
yeah. I think it's unfortunate. I think being a Black woman leader in this time, I really had to think about like where my priorities are, where I see my place in all of this, because as a Black woman who's only worked in public health and in community, I have seen a trend specifically from Black women that we're first in, last out. When a situation
Uh-huh.
arises, we are
Uh-huh.
the first ones in to support, help, collaborate, organize, and the last ones out when, the dust settles. And I continue to see that. In the crisis that we're going through right now. And I think for me as a Black woman leader, prioritizing where I spend my time, money, and effort and energy, um, I think this time I'm just really focused on my team. It feels like I have a team right now where um that has to be my focus, making sure that they're safe, making sure that they don't feel pressure, to come to work if they don't feel safe to drive, or, whatever the situation may be. I think caring for my team right now has really risen to the top of my priority, professionally. And then I think, personally, in the position that I'm at now, I understand how, just like, honestly, cold hard cash really goes a long way, and I feel like I have, the privilege to be able to give at a level that I haven't been able to in the past. So in the past, I'm like, I have to show up, I have to be there because that's what I can offer. And, at this season of my life, I think being able to provide monetary support is where I feel the work is for me.
Right on. I love the insights that you shared, and I think it's going to be really relatable to a lot of the folks who are listening who are in the MAC network and or related, roles in our sector. That focus on
Mhm.
team and what can we do, and also you said time, money, effort, and energy, and that's one of those things that you could put that on plaque, right? Time, money,
Yeah,
effort, and energy. I love it.
yeah,
You referred to your role at Annex and the work you do, so we want to learn more about Annex, who's a great MAC member. Want to learn a little bit more about what you do, and also, I just want to recognize you have a big role at Annex. You're their education director, and so help us get to know Annex a little bit more, maybe your role there, and the question that comes to mind is, how has this current crisis shown up at Annex?
yeah. I would love to talk about the Annex. I love telling people who maybe aren't familiar. So, the Annex Teen Clinic, we are located in Robbinsdale, northwest suburb of Minneapolis. And, to really kind of simplify the work that we do here, we really have two major program areas. So, we have a clinic, a sexual health clinic, where young people up until the age of 26 can come get sexual health clinical services. So, birth control, STI testing, pregnancy testing, things of that nature. And we only do reproductive sexual health clinical services. One reason, it's really important that we, have access for young people who are under the age of 18, and because of the minors consent law in Minnesota, you don't need parental permission to come get these services in Minnesota. And I think that's really part of our mission when we think about serving young people. And so the other program area is obviously education, where we are in community schools providing education to young people around sexual health. But I think what's really important about that is, like, we are not just going into schools doing prevention education. We're not just, teaching young people prevent an unwanted pregnancy or how to prevent a STI, which are really important parts of the work that we do, but we are also talking about healthy relationships. We're talking about consent. We are talking about how to negotiate your needs and wants in relationships, which I feel personally should take precedent. If we're teaching young people at a really early age how to care for themselves and their partner within relationship, then I truly believe all of those other things kind of fall into that, prevention category. If a young person is in a healthy relationship, they're having conversations about preventing pregnancy. If pregnancy is a option in the relationship that they're in, they're talking about, you know, barrier methods or condoms. They're talking about preventing STIs, or, knowing each other's status, because they have those skills to communicate that. So, that is kind of what the Annex does. And we do support adults as well. We have a growing, robust professional development, where which has become quickly one of my favorite things to do at the Annex. So, to provide trainings and support for organizations, and other systems like county systems, state hospitals, wherever young people get services or interface with adults, and we're providing them with skills to support young people as whole people. And then we do parent education as well, talking to parents on how to be the, primary sexuality educator for their young people in their life, for their children. So, yeah, that's kind of the Annex in a nutshell.
That's great. And I, of course, want to make sure listeners know how they can learn more about those trainings. You have information on your Annex website, I assume?
Absolutely. You can go to annexteenclinic.org, go under like presentations, request a presentation for youth in your community. As a parent, you can request presentations, or, if you have an organization that serves parents. And then if you have an organization or agency that is looking for professional development, you can do that on our website as well.
Very cool. We wanted to talk a little bit about kind of how the current crisis is showing up at Annex, and and also just overall, are you seeing a prominent increase in violence in communities, perhaps in queer communities? And kind of how does this affect the work that you're doing at Annex? Can you give us some insight there?
Yeah, I mean, we are a clinic. We are on a pretty busy road. So I definitely, we have noticed appointments, kind of declining right now. Maybe young people not showing up for their appointments at a little bit higher of a rate than we're used to. And then obviously in the schools, like we definitely notice like young people are not going to schools. Um, and if we have an educator who happens to be out one day, you know, students are genuinely concerned when they don't see their health mentor in their health mentor site. And that just is an added stress to young people that they don't deserve or need right now.
Yeah.
I think as it, pertains to the annex, we have all the plans and we have all the protocols, and, just continuing to communicate to staff, advocate for what you need right now. So that's really how, specifically with the annex, we have seen, how it's affected us. Obviously, we are all affected by what is happening in our city. I have staff members who live in South Minneapolis. I have, staff members who live in very high traffic ICE, areas where we see ICE like repeatedly showing up. And so, yeah, that's scary when people don't feel like they can leave their house. Like, I mean, that is a real concern that people have. And I think we're all just kind of fatigued from the collective trauma. But I on the other side of that, I have seen my staff at Cooper High School step up with mutual aid, really collaborate with the school to support students who are now doing distance learning, to
Yeah.
support their families with rent support and food and errands and picking up medicine. And so I have also seen my team going above and beyond to support their students, and even to have a space in the school where they can go and just be in community with someone who maybe shares their identity or shares their lived experience and how this is affecting them, and they really get it. I mean, the representation and visibility of that has also been something of a silver lining in all this trauma and chaos and crisis that we're in.
Yeah.
Um so it's there's so much awful and terrible and disgusting things happening, and there's so much community support also that has risen up from this. I love seeing community support. I don't love seeing it in times like we're in now, right? As a response to um but here we are, and like the
Yes.
community has not laid down. They have stood up and fought with snowballs and silly string and supported the community. And so that is also something that I think is really important to highlight, as we have these conversations too. I mean, and my staff, these are young. Okay, I'm a little bit older, so I say these are young adults. These are 24-year-olds that are stepping up and like supporting their school sites. And so I'm really in awe and amazed of how much leadership there is on my team.
Yeah, well, and we're in awe and amazed too with the Annex, everything that Annex does, and just appreciate and have a lot of gratitude for the work that Annex does to support our community, and appreciate you just giving us a glimpse into what that's like.
Mhm.
Let's pivot a little bit, but not a big pivot. we want to talk a little bit about boundaries and values. And
Mhm.
just want to ask you about your own boundaries and values that you, as a Black woman and in a leadership role, that you've leaned on to help guide your decisions during what's a pretty chaotic period in time. So yeah, internal boundaries and values, and then maybe on the reverse side, like what is your organization leaning on, and how are they supporting your team? But let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think, my internal boundaries and things that I'm thinking about within that during this time is sustainability, right? I I think as a leader in a small organization, we always hold a lot. And now, you know, that load feels heavier, right? So I think what is something that I am personally tasking myself to do is like using my time off. You know what I mean? Like um taking the day off, taking time and like being okay with that. I think as I get older, prioritizing that has been more important than maybe it has in the past. Also saying no. I have always been somebody who's had like a quite bandwidth of capacity to do multiple things, and I just don't have that anymore. I don't think anybody has that anymore, right? There is so
Yeah.
many things that are draining us right now. And really just listening to that and being like, nope, I can just say no to that. Or like, it doesn't feel good, but I can just back out of that because like if I'm doing all of these things, then what good am I to my team? What good am I to this organization? And I feel right now I am hyper focused on my department right now as well as the organization, but really focusing on my department because my team is showing up and the least I can do is make sure that I show up for them. So making sure I'm taking care of myself, which I encourage my team to do, right? That thing is like, do as I say and not as I do. Now that do I'm doing as I say,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
like kind of and doing that. I think especially Black women leaders are not great at that. We give people grace, and we want to make sure people feel good and are able to take care of themselves, and we forget that we also deserve that. And so I'm reminding myself of that right now, and absolutely utilizing all the time off that I have that I earned. Right, it's my time. I should be taking it.
I love
Um,
that.
and yeah,
What a great takeaway, for listeners, right? Uh, do as I say and do as I do, and use your time off, and feel free to say no. Those are great
yeah,
pieces of advice.
hmm
What
yeah, and
about,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, please continue.
And then you asked a little bit about the organization. I think, that same sentiment is for our organization. Like we are going through a transition right now. We have an interim executive director right now, and there's a lot of moving pieces with that, and so everybody just has to like give a little grace and kind of take a deep breath and just take care of themselves. And I think organizationally we support that as well. For the organization, within this time, just making sure that we're just giving people opportunities to advocate for themselves and take time off if they need, ensuring the organization that the leaders are keeping a close eye on things. We have protocols in place where they need to be. Everybody is up to date on what that looks like. um and just continuing to communicate with staff, um and be transparent, so that they have confidence in the leaders of this organization.
Get it? Yeah, I got it. That's super relatable, I think, for any Mac member. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um,
Mhm.
so we want to make sure while we're on with you, we hear a little bit about. You've talked a lot about how you and your organization at Annex support the community. How can we support you? Like, what would make you feel more supported at Annex? And specifically, are there some tangible ways that our community can better support you and Annex?
Yeah, I think one thing that kind of rose to the forefront when you talked about how can MACC support. And I think one thing that y'all are starting to do, or maybe been working on for a while, that feels really relevant is, the impact of stricter rules from funders, in lieu of all of the fraud that has happened in Minnesota, and how this administration, I believe, is weaponizing that. Against, Minnesota and other states like California, New York, things like that. And I really appreciate that y'all are interested in hearing how that is impacting organizations. We are a small organization, and when they're like, we're doing an audit and we need records from 2020, or just like whatever ridiculous, or it's like, I know you've had this grant for 4 years, but now things have changed and now it's retroactive. And it's like, well, we didn't, no, that's no. So we're not in compliance from something that you told me today, but it's retroactive for 4 years ago, like some of these things that are coming down. And, I think y'all are, I think I really appreciate the maybe scrutiny that you're kind of being like, that doesn't feel fair, that doesn't feel right. Let's dive into that. And y'all definitely have like a little bit more power behind you all with the legislativeness of it. And so yeah, I think that is something that we were having a conversation about it yesterday. I was like, thank goodness, like somebody has to talk about this, like, because it's our job sometimes is hard, but that is making it harder in a way that
100%.
doesn't feel great. You know what I mean? Like, we've been doing this work for 50 years. I've been at this organization 13, and you're emailing me like I've done, like I got caught with my hands in the cookie jar, and that doesn't also feel good when I have only done my work with integrity, with passion, empathy, and been compliant. We've had clean desk audits since the beginning of time. And now it's like all of a sudden all these things are happening that we didn't know about because it's retroactive, because, people want to save themselves instead of taking accountability. Because there is also another piece of this. Like, somebody was approving these invoices. That's all I'll say. Anyway.
100%. Um, you speak in a way that all MAC members will will find relatable and truly be able to understand. And I appreciate that. And you're right, MAC does believe that together we're stronger. So we definitely speak on behalf of our human services sector. What about if folks just what about just a listener maybe wants to just support Annex in the work that you do? Is there like an easy way for us to step up during this time and give our support to Annex?
Yeah, I mean, there's really practical ways that, we can support the annex. We are having, a fundraiser in April. I believe it is this year. So, please, follow our social media, Annex Teen Clinic, on LinkedIn and Instagram to find out more information about that, because, I mean, I'm a very, not to be shy about it, but monetary support is a way to support organizations, small organizations in your community. And a fundraiser is a really fun way to do that. Um, so I
Cool.
also think, another great thing that I think we can all kind of collectively do is, if you see opportunities for collaboration and partnership, right? If you have an organization that does something with young people and maybe needs some sexual health education, this is a good opportunity for us to collaborate. I think collaboration is a really great way for organizations to support each other when resources are limited.
That's a wonderful suggestion. And I'm going to look forward to listeners that was getting their wheels spinning on that one. And I'm also going to go back to my desk and think about some of the other organizations I can connect up with Annex, because I think that's a great suggestion as well. Okay, so I promised listeners that they were going to learn a little bit more about some of the other hats you wear, and I want to make sure we save a couple minutes for that. We've talked a lot about all of these unrelenting challenges that Minnesota's facing. Um, And I understand you have, and I'm sure there's a connection to, what's going on too, but you have some outside of work endeavors. Maybe I can't imagine, I imagine that they are bringing you joy during what is really a difficult time. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about this. And I've hinted at it, improv and
Mhm.
comedy. I'm so fascinated.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing it up because I think sometimes people feel like in these times of crisis and trauma that if you experience joy, people feel guilty about it. And I want to be really clear is like we have to experience joy to fuel us for the hard moments, right? That's I think we need that. So when I'm not, working at the Annex, I do stand-up comedy. All over the city. I travel a little bit with it as well outside of Minneapolis, but comedy really is you know, the love of my life. I love the work that I do at the Annex. That is my passion. Done it for over 20. I've been in sexual for over 20 years, but comedy, I love it so much because providing joy and laughter to people, especially in times of chaos and confusion, feels so necessary because in these moments that are scary and um full of trauma, everybody deserves to have a bubble of joy, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And may that be a 2 hour comedy show in the city or whatever, but everybody deserves a bubble of joy. And I am so grateful that I get to be a part of that for so many people, multiple nights a week. So, yeah, I'm doing stand up comedy. I also have a talk show that's going to premiere February 13th on Speak Minneapolis, Channel
What?
17. Yes, it's kind of like a deeper dive into, comics and how they got to where they are. I have some amazing guests this season. It's the first season. Um, some amazing comics from the city, Pierre Douglas, Sam Shedler, some other amazing, I don't know, hometown celebrities. So Brittany from Brittany and Kendall from My Talk is on this season. Nerdy is on, amazing Twin Cities rapper is on my first season. So yeah, so that's another, maybe bubble of joy. So you can catch that on Fridays at Speak Minneapolis .com/watch that premieres on Galentine's Day, February 13th at 8:30. You can catch it there. And then in April, I'll drop the whole season on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Khadijah Cooper. So yeah, I have these other things that spark creativity inside of me. I get to collaborate with amazing people. And, I think the comedy community in Minnesota has also stepped up. There's been multiple benefit shows where they're, raising money and donating. Roughly speaking, just from what I've kind of been seeing, we've raised tens of thousands of dollars for the community with at different shows. So it also feels good that there is like this odd philanthropy
Yeah.
ness of comedy right now, which feels good to be a part of.
Oh my gosh, I love to hear it. And you are the coolest Renaissance woman I've ever had the pleasure of having on this podcast. So
Oh my
amazing.
gosh. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
I'm
you so much for
definitely going to
saying
be
that.
tuning in and looking for your performances as well. Oh my gosh. Well,
Absolutely.
this time has flown by and it's been such a pleasure, and I'm so happy you said yes amidst all the busyness and responsibilities that you have on your plate. Appreciate you joining us and really allowing listeners to get to know you a little bit. You're an important voice in the network, and just appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And, thank you to everyone who's listened. If you're interested in more of my comedy side, you can follow me at K Cooper Comedy on Instagram or The Khadijah Show, specifically also on Instagram.
Nice. This has been a terrific conversation with Khadijah Cooper, who's the Education Director at Annex. Thank you, Khadijah, for all you do and all you've shared with the MACC Network today. Listeners, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for listening. Don't miss MACC's monthly podcast episodes. Find us where you listen to podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Podbean, or you can even find our episodes directly on our website and in our Workforce Digests. Have an idea for a MACC podcast guest? Reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Have a great day and be well. Goodbye. right. I